This conference will now be recorded.
Are we technologically ready to go?
I think so.
How about you? IT's ready? Is IT ready?
We've got two different views.
Okay.
One facing out and one facing this way.
All right, good deal. So IT's ready, Public Works ready to go, Public Relations. Town manager. Mayor. Are we ready? All right. I'm going to call this meeting to order, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all. It's great to see people here. I love to see people here getting interested in their town, and welcome to the board and ladies and gentlemen of the staff. We always start this meeting as a pledge of allegiance. I would like for everyone to stand. Please remain standing afterwards. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would please remain standing. If I could get Commissioner Waters to do an invocation for us.
Let's pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you by the name of Jesus. Thank you so much for the many blessings you have bestowed upon this wonderful town. Thank you for a wonderful weekend we had here, the event where people came out, enjoyed themselves, Father, Lord. It was just a great day. Thank you for that. Lord, bless us now, Father, going to our meeting tonight. Be with us, lead us, guide us, and direct us. Help us be what you have us to be as we make decisions for our town, for the veterans of our community. Be with us. Help us be what you have us to be. In Jesus' name we pray.
And if you would please remain standing, like a moment of silence for some of our citizens that have recently passed away. Robert Dwyer, Jay Fairbanks, Vincent Cipriano, and any others that may not have been mentioned. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. I'd like to take this moment to remind everybody to please turn off your cell phones or at least put them on vibrate. I know some of you have some very colorful ringtones, but we don't want to hear them. And also, if there's anything on the agenda tonight that any of the commissioners feel would be a conflict of interest, please let it be known now. If not, we'll move on to the next order of business, which is the adoption of the agenda as it is. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, gentlemen. Next up is the consent agenda, which is approval of the June 14th, 2021 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion? Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. All right, next up, we have public comments. We have 3 people that have signed up to speak, and we'll go in order of how they signed up. First is Dr. Daigle. Doctor, if you would, please.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, my bad. We're trying to make sure everybody online. No, you come on up, sir. Just trying to get a feeling so you can be
Here.
Hey, I appreciate letting me be up here. I'm going to kind of roll some things back. One of the reasons I'm here is basically I'm concerned with my garbage pickup. I'm only having 1 can picked up now. We've always had 2 cans picked up. I know it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. I'm not going to pay $300 every quarter to have a 2nd can, and I'm not going to go ahead and take the garbage down to the dump myself. That's what's told to me by somebody in the town hall here. I'm just confused on what's the deal. Why all of a sudden we went to 1 can? Why not the 2 cans that we've had all along? We got 5 people in my house. We generate a lot of stuff. We fill the blue can. We fill that up in 2 days. Our recycle. We could do 3 recycles in 1 garbage. And Jeff, even yourself, you said when you were running us out with you and your family, you said, I'll do what the people want. I guarantee you, the people on my street want 2 cans picked up. Okay, your people right behind your house do. Okay. Second thing, I had a couple of things in here. Why is it that my taxes here are 20 cents on $100 and the surrounding areas a nickel on a dollar? We have this mutual agreement between Cedar Point and Bogue and Pelletier. That's fine. Well, what do we get on the mutual? What is fed back to us? That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Holmes.
Thank you, Mayor, Board. First, I want to congratulate the board and the staff and the chief on the very successful Watermelon Festival. I came and it was a huge crowd, much more than I expected. And I will get you my septic tank permit so that in the future, when we have things you won't be all over my septic tank area. So congratulations, truly. Number two, I have brought to the attention of the town manager that the little stretch between Holly Lane and around the corner of Cape Carteret, my corner, seems to be the only area in town that is not a no-wake zone. And I would like consideration for that to be a no-wake zone. I have the map that was provided earlier to people who were making application for a boat ramp pass. And I'd love for that to be changed if possible and make the whole area a no-wake zone. Number two, the map that was disseminated with the ramp passes shows the entire area north of the boat ramp as parking. I did not lease y'all all that land as parking. And my parking that I reserved for myself has been abused. Don't know how you will correct that. If you don't want to correct it, I'll be glad to negotiate with you for additional rent for my space that was not included in the lease. Third, the House Bill 513. I don't have a boat. I do hold a fishing license. I love North Carolina seafood. And although all the fish belong to all the people, I like to eat North Carolina seafood. And the only way I can do that is to buy it from a fish house or a grocery store that buys it from commercial fishermen in North Carolina. So my feelings were a little hurt by the House Bill 513, particularly in the way it's labeled. I'm sure all of y'all have read it, but some of the folks here might not have. It's labeled a bill to be entitled an act to provide for a referendum to limit indiscriminate net fishing in the coastal waters of the state. Well, I think that's a slap in the face at the regulatory agencies that regulate commercial fishermen. I think they are very strictly regulated. Back when there seemed to be a feud between the pleasure fishermen, the recreational fishermen, and the commercial fishermen. But we need to, sorry. We need to cherish the commercial fishermen, few and raggedy as they're getting to be, and figure out a way to share the bounty with everybody. The recreational fishermen aren't required to limit their catch. Well, yes, they are, but they are not required to report it the way the commercial fishermen are. We know from the trip tickets exactly who's getting what and where they're selling it and so forth. But the recreational fishermen just pretty much do as they please. So please, let's consider a little balance and not just endorse a resolution to limit indiscriminate. I don't think anybody's getting indiscriminate use of net fishing. Thank you.
And last but not least is Dorothy Marcy.
I didn't prepare anything to speak. Usually I try to write it ahead of time and keep it in 3 minutes. But I wrote to all of the commissioners with 3 things. I'm desperately in need of shredding of important papers. And we had a shredding event 2 or 3 years ago. And I think it'd be nice to have it again. And I don't have a truck. And I have things that need to be taken away. I do a lot of trimming. I've got over 100 azaleas, and there's a lot of trimming that results at my property more often than 2 times a year. And so our neighbors would like to have a more frequent pickup. And we used to have a large item pickup sometime, and we haven't had any of that. And I got that land, somebody in Everything Cape Carteret was talking about a survey on Cape Carteret. Well, I've just found a land use and I just wrote all kinds of things like when are we ever going to get something safe at the corner of Taylor Lotion Road and Highway 58? It's kind of iffy. It's kind of an angle, hard to see to the left. And some of us have to go that way all the time or go through town. And at the end of my little dissertation, I said, and we certainly don't need that big clover leaf tearing up Cape Carteret. But there are some things, you know, from the olden days that would be nice to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Try to remember to pass this around and figure out our speakers. Next up on the agenda is staff updates. Zach?
Alrighty, so we had our June movie in the park, which was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So thank you for everybody who came out to that. I think everybody had a good time. Want to give an update on the Pennifer Creek launch site. We have the third launch in place. So we have 3 different locations there. We'll be able to launch a kayak or canoe or paddleboard. So we're excited that is in place. It's really come together nicely. We're in the process of the turn lane being installed, and we're waiting on the state stormwater permit still. So hopefully that'll be processed by the end of July, and we can complete the driveway and parking lot. But our hands are kind of tied on that side of by the state. They have 90 days to review that permit. So want to recognize Officer Willis. We got his military banner up there on Highway 24, so give him a shout out and recognize him for his service, both to the town and his service when he was in the military. So really excited about that program and excited to be able to honor him. And then we have Sergeant Eschbach there on the other side of the pole as well. So great that we can honor our officers in the Cape Carteret Police Department. And want to give an update at the Ferry Landing Park. You can see the construction in progress there on the left, and then the completed product there on the right. So that turned out really nice, and we're moving right along with that project. The vinyl fence is hopefully supposed to arrive tomorrow. So hopefully tomorrow we can get that vinyl fence up and get that in place and then open the park up. So that's progressing nicely. Update on the Public Works building. That's the new Public Works building there. That's in place, and here's an inside view of it. So we're really excited to see that project come to fruition. It's going to give us a lot of indoor storage space that we desperately needed to get some stuff out of the elements. And hopefully we'll be able to store some of the decorations and things in there as well. So that's progressing nicely. We just have to get the garage doors. Those are on back order, but once that's done, then the building will be complete and we can start moving stuff in there. And then finally, want to talk about the Crystal Coast Watermelon Festival, and especially want to thank Barbara Owens. She took the lead on organizing a lot of the festival and the vendors and everything. Want to recognize Heather Leffingwell, Chief McKinney, Mike Bishop, Sergeant Eschbach, Officer Kearney, and Ryan Hutchinson and the Public Works Department for getting it ready for us, and Ryan for being there on the day of the event. Want to recognize all the commissioners who came out, and of course Mayor Baker's band who performed at the Watermelon Festival, as well as the Dirty Blonde band. So it was a huge success. You know, we couldn't have imagined for the first year it was going to be the success that it was. So really pleased with how it turned out, and there will definitely be a second annual Watermelon Festival in the future. So thank you to everybody who came out, and thank you to the vendors, and thank you to Channel 12 also, who gave us some last minute coverage on that on Saturday. Really got the word out there. So that's all I have for my updates for today. But thanks again for to all our staff and everybody who made it a success. So.
I cannot echo enough how impressed I was with how well that ran, how awesome the staff did. It was hot. It was a hot day. I tell you what, those guys are all day long and just dealing with the traffic and the people. We had no incidents that I'm aware of to take place. And when you get that many people together and you have hot weather and all that, but talked to several of the vendors that ran out of food and ran out of product. A lot of the ones that were selling stuff, everybody seemed to have a really great time. So I was very impressed with that. And like I say, kudos to the staff, because without you guys, we couldn't do it. And to be a small town and to put an event on like that, that would rile other towns that spend 5 times the money we do on something like that, I think is very impressive. So thanks to you, Zach, and the staff and everybody that had something to do with that. That was just awesome. I just can't say enough about it. All right, next up is Planning Board Chair comments. Susan Hall, if there's anything you'd like to say, hang on just one moment. All right, right.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen. The first thing, before I talk about our last meeting, I just wanted to mention that the planning board is meeting monthly now, whether or not we have anything on the agenda. If we do not have anything on the agenda, then we're doing training. In the months ahead, there'll be a lot of work with the new land use plan and the new UDO. So I think we'll get a lot out of those meetings if we have nothing on the agenda. At this last meeting, the thing that we had on the agenda was the text amendment that Mr. Girardi, he is a resident of Newport, but he's a homeowner, he's a property owner at 100 Bogue Sound Drive. And he asked for a text change or an amendment to the Code of Ordinance, specifically that B20 Commercial Zoning District would allow storage facilities, storage lot as a permitted use. Currently, storage facilities are not a permitted use anywhere in town. There is, for B30, which he would not qualify for because his property is a B20, you can have heavy equipment parking and storage, including trucks and trailer rigs. Now, Mr. Girardi also talked about wanting to use that property to park his, and he has another business that is roll-offs, the roll-off construction containers, and he wanted to start using that lot as a storage place, an outdoor storage place for those type of things. That is not in compliance with the zoning of that lot for B20. We gave Mr. Girardi an opportunity to state his case, and the planning board voted unanimously to recommend to not forward a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners for that text change. And the reason is because allowing the text change would change every B20 lot in town. So we would be able to have storage, any property owner could have storage anywhere in B20. And if you think about that, the lot that's in front of the gym that's currently for sale, that could be storage. The lot at Bogue Sound Drive could be storage. Any open lot that we currently have on 24 or 58 could become storage. And I think when the original permitted uses were written, I think there was a reason why that was omitted. And it's because it really, I don't think it's in keeping with where we want our town main drag to go as far as aesthetics. So we are not approving, or we are not recommending approval for that. I did tell Mr. Girardi, because he said his piece, and I really understand what his dilemma is with that lot. He's not able to develop the way he thought he could. He's having trouble selling it as some of the commercial endeavors that he's been trying to use it for. And I invited him to come back to the planning board, and we would help him understand some of those permitted uses and maybe help him understand what some of his opportunities are. Okay. Thank you.
All right, with that, next up on the agenda was the public hearing on the proposed text amendment. So I guess we would need a motion to go out of the regular meeting and into the public hearing. Is that correct? So I have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, so we're now into the public hearing on the proposed text amendment to add the storage facility, storage lot as a permitted use in the B20 commercial zoning district. Do we have anybody write anything or call town hall or email or anything? Is there anybody here that would like to speak? Yes, sir, if you don't mind.
We don't have to speak out loud. Right. When it's down route, our concern was that, and I think she just question is what that lot was on for. When we bought it 107, the lot there across the street, very small lot. It's right behind that property that you're talking about. So we just are hearing in the community now that Mr. Guardi, I guess, is trying to buy that property as well. And we got broken into while they were taking down the storage buildings. We had a guy wander down there, broke into our house. Just the whole storage building field, we bought it as a residential property. To look across the street, that's another residential piece of property. And the very last thing we want is invested in this community is to have a storage build facility. Either, even if it comes in off the highway, I think that's bad enough. But I mean, if they're turning down Bucktown Drive and then turning right in front of our house to the storage facility and coming out at night, I think it affects the value of our property and our safety. That's all.
Sir, could you just give your name and address for the minutes?
I'll give birth. Becky's was at 107 Bucktown.
What was your name?
My name is
Brett.
Brett.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And you're okay with that, ma'am? Okay. Just to make sure it's in. Okay, anybody else here that would like to comment on that? If not, then I'll look for a motion to come out of the public hearing and go back into the regular meeting.
Move to come out.
Second. All in favor? All righty, thank you, gentlemen. All right, next up on the agenda, or I guess, do we need to do anything with that? Okay, all right.
No.
Just move on and then we'll come, okay. All right.
Yeah, I think we got on this, on the same item. You want me to just go through the memo?
Yeah, let's do that while we're there.
All right, so the town of Cape Carteret received a request from Mr. Tony Girardi for a text amendment to add storage facility / storage lot to the table of permitted uses and parking spaces requirements as a permitted use in the B20 commercial zoning district of the town. The public notice for this public hearing today ran in the Carteret County News Times on June 23rd and June 30th. The planning board action, as Chairperson Hall mentioned, at 6 p.m. on July 6th, the planning board voted unanimously to forward an unfavorable recommendation of proposed text amendment to the Board of Commissioners. The Campbell Land Use Plan Statement of Consistency, the proposed text amendment is inconsistent with the town's 2007 Campbell Land Use Plan. And the requested action is for the Board of Commissioners to consider either approving or denying the proposed text amendment to add storage facility / storage lot as a permitted use in the B20 commercial zoning district.
Is there a motion to approve or deny?
Sorry.
Is there a motion to approve or deny the text amendment?
To deny.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I think the original ordinance, the reason that wasn't in there is good enough for me. Quote, storage facility, storage lot, that could be anything from those little buildings that they rent out, or it could be for boats and trailers. And they are usually surrounded by a page wire fence with grass growing up in it. They become somewhat seedy. If this were at the outer limits of our the B20 district, maybe up on 58, I might could entertain that. But when you put it in B20, you allow it in every B20 district in the town. So I can't support this.
Any other comments? I'm working.
I would say if we were only talking about this one lot, I mean, there have been storage units there, and if this was a matter of they tore them down, wanting to rebuild and needed an amendment, I would be willing to consider it. But by approving this, we're talking on all the B20. I just can't support that at all. So I don't support it.
Let's just cut it off. I thought I turned it down. New phone. All right, if there's no other comments, the motion is to deny the text amendment. I'll call for a vote. All in favor of denial? And the motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll hand this back to Commissioner King because the next up is the discussion of the Storage racks.
Zach, could you put up, do you have those things on your computer? I asked that they be, so we could show them, so everybody see what we're talking about. I know the commissioners have pictures, but I wanted,
Maybe some looking to see if you want to get it.
okay, go ahead, you look and I'll talk then. And during the budget process this year, we set aside money to put storage racks, kayak storage racks. It would be enough to store about a dozen kayaks, and they could be rented out, whatever the town chooses to do. And we're here tonight to talk about how much and where to put them. The estimate, when he gets the picture up, I've changed the design a little bit from what is down in Morehead City. But basically what it would be is a little storage rack, and I'm recommending we put one in Bay Shore, at the end of Bay Shore Drive, and the other one on Holly Lane, which is underutilized. The one in Bay Shore, that's only the real good place that they have down there to do it. Lejeune doesn't have, you don't want it, it's bulkheaded, and Boguetown Drive is the town beach, and there you go. That's the design. The only change I'm going to make is the posts. These are 12-foot 8x8s, and they're no longer available for ground contact. So I'm going to use 6x6 and put a little knee brace in each one of these things. Roy Fish, who's a local carpenter, has offered to help me install them for the town at no cost. The cost is about $800 each. And also we could entertain whether or not we would want at this time to put one up at the 58 site, which would be a total of 3. When we talked the budget, we did not talk that. We only talked to 2 here in Old Cape Carteret. But with that, I'll leave it for any comments any other commissioners may have.
How did you propose to rent those? An annual basis rental or?
That would be something the board, I would say $25 a year. Just start with that and see what kind of response we get. Allow the people to use their own hardware if they want to secure it. If you go down there, some were secure and some were not. But $25 a year and see how they do for the first year.
So you're actually looking at 24 or 36 rental spaces.
Yes.
And that's how many residents would have the opportunity to use those things.
Yes.
I don't have one, so I don't know how you use these things, but I'd be a little bit leery about leaving a kayak out on the highway someplace where you come to use it, all you find is a cable and no kayak. If that were to happen, would the town, as a landlord, have any liability?
I would absolutely make sure that they will store those at their own risk. If it gets stolen, there will be no liability to the town. They've had those for years down at Morehead City, and it just look, one of the things, I'm out there often, I see a lot of kayakers, but what really inhibits people using their kayaks is they got to put them on top of a car, and sometimes that's a challenge for one person to get them down. They got to unload them, then they got to load them back up to get them back home. If they could store them and just, I'm talking putting them close to the water's edge where they could just pull them out of there and drag them into the water. And we're talking $800 each for these things. Maybe we could get better environmentally friendly use of the water with something like that down there.
I'm not a kayak user either, so I don't know, but I mean, in the areas we're talking about putting them, are people putting kayaks in the water down there? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we've got this kayak launch that we're building up down here on 58, but are people using this area?
They use them all the time. Right now they're using, for the most part, Manatee Street and Anita Fort and some over in Bay Shore. Those are the 3 that they're used. If we put it at Holly Lane, that would use an underutilized, and it's very good place to put one. And and I recommend the other one over in Bay Shore, and Bay Shore Drive is probably the best place to put one over there.
I think everybody remembers we applied for a kayak launch on Bay Shore and it was disapproved, but they launched kayaks
almost daily over there in the season. I'm all for this. I got a few questions though, Mike. What's the dimensions, overall dimensions, length and width, not the height?
Okay, those are, the 2x8s are 12 foot long, okay, so they're sticking out about 6 feet on either side, and there's about 4 feet between them, so you can see, there's another picture there.
So 12 by 6, 12 by 8?
Those are double, you got the other picture there, Zach? Yeah, you see what they're set?
Okay.
Now you can see, yeah, that's looking from the end. It's two 2x8s for each one. There's plenty of storage. It's way over design.
Ryan, if you remember when I first met you, you were at the Bayshore Pier site, and I asked you to measure inside that vinyl fence and see if one of those would fit. Did you ever do that, or no?
I don't think I have the exact measurements of that at the moment, but I'm glad you'd be able to do that for us.
Okay. I would advocate putting them on the right-hand side as you're facing the pier, because they launch on the left-hand side. If you put it on the left-hand side, it would interfere with getting the kayaks off the rack.
Yeah.
Just as long as they fit inside the white vinyl fence, which is.
That's right.
Okay. Are we going to limit renting these to town residents only?
Your choice. I would.
I would. I mean,
I think you've got it. Any of the street end parks is gonna have to be limited.
Yes.
Okay. That was my
good point.
My next question, if we decided to go with one on the kayak facility on 58, which was paid for with grant money, would we have to open that rental potential up for outsiders outside the town? Okay. Would we charge them the same $25? I mean, I'm just comparing apples to apples, the boat ramp-ish, fees. Just want to make sure we get all our ducks in a row before we approve them.
Well, what we could do is, when we did the budget, we only talked about the two. We didn't talk the third one. We could just do the two down here and see how it works out. And then if it turns out to be something that's popular and people want, we could put one up there later on.
So you're talking about Bayshore, or did you want the other one 84 or over on that?
No, Holly Lane.
Holly Lane is very low utilization of that property. Be perfect for a kayak facility, or kayakers, I think. That's all my questions. Mike, I'm all for it.
I just have one thing to say. Having this facility down there at the old Ferry dock with kayaks, kids, people enjoying the area, really need some type of life-saving device installed in that area as well. If someone falling off, that is very deep water down there. So we need some type of life-saving devices down there to maintain safety for the folks.
You like a throw ring or something down there?
Yeah, throw a ring or torpedo, something that somebody can throw something out there to somebody, back in safety. And we may want to look at that as well with the kayak launch as well. Because there'll be a lot of people visiting down there that's going to be out of town. So we need to make sure these areas are fitted.
I agree with you on that.
Because it's a dangerous area. It really concerns me at the ferry dock landing, because that is, how deep is that water? Usually,
Say it's probably 4.5 feet above tide.
well, when it drops,
Yeah.
it drops pretty deep.
What did Emerald Isle do? You brought the chief police over there and they put those life jackets on the public entrances over there.
Well, they started the life jacket, but then they went with the torpedo, because going through the right ways, trying to swim out somebody, give them a life jacket, then they had especially riptide bad as it is. So the torpedoes work.
Then they had some theft problems, I recall.
Well, it's going to happen. It's inevitable, but
I'm all for safety. I mean, that's something we need.
That can be done independent of this, because the two places we're putting the kayaks knee deep for a long ways out.
I personally think, one final comment, I personally think that the storage racks would be more successful in kayak launch than they will be in Holly Lane, for instance, without towers that don't want to haul their stuff. I'm all for doing the 3 of them. Yes. What we're talking about is a little, this again, I mean, it'd be an opportune time to put it for motion, or whatever.
Yeah, it would be 800 times 3, 2,400. And we could do that. Let Jack take care of the administrative details.
All right, so I guess a motion to approve for Zach to get the details and what the costs and all that are to install. We want to do 3. Go ahead and do 3. One delayed for when the new boat, I mean, the new launch is ready. And for the installation of, okay, let me make sure I word this right. To approve the installation of kayak storage racks, 1 at Bayshore, 1 at Holly Lane, and 1 pending at the new kayak launch.
Yes.
Does
We
that
could
sound
go
right?
ahead and fund it,
Yes.
pending completion of the facility or the opening of the facility, or whatever.
Right, pending. Is that
Got
something?
whole years out.
So are you allocating the funding from a specific source, just from the undesignated fund balance?
Yes, naturally.
Yep.
I'll say that all out.
If there's an issue, let us know.
Okay.
All right, so how's that sound?
Sounds like a good one to me.
Heather, did you get that? Okay. All right.
The only comment I would like to, Captain Roy Fish just volunteered to help me put them on.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
I love some free labor. I'd love to see more of that in town, people volunteering. That's awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you. So do I have a motion?
Don't move.
Do I have a second? Any more discussion? If not, then all in favor? There you go. All right, Zach, there's something else for you to do there, brother. Next up is the adoption of the American Rescue Plan Resolution. Resolution. Not revolution, resolution.
Get it up on the screen.
Right after the picture.
You got that?
Got it? There you go. And the next page is the actual document.
All right, so this is for the adoption of a resolution for the American Rescue Plan. This is kind of a formality that we need to take to make sure that we can receive funds through the American Rescue Plan. So I've got the resolution up there on the screen. This is just the standard template that they provided, but this is a step that we need to take to be able to receive those funds. Once we know exactly how much those funds come to, then we'll probably be coming back to have a discussion over how to allocate those funds and then to do a separate way to account for those funds to come in. But this is to allow us to receive those funds. This is kind of one of the steps in the process to get us to that point. But I know the funding amounts are starting to vary a little bit because some municipalities are not taking their disbursement. So as other municipalities don't take a disbursement, then the amount might go up, or if others choose to that are on the fence, it might go down. So we're still waiting a little bit on that information, but this is a step in our process just to allow us to receive those funds through the American Rescue Plan. So I just ask for the board's consideration in approving the proposed resolution.
Has everybody read that or? Okay.
Did you,
Okay, I just asked if everybody had read the resolution. I'll be more than happy to read it aloud if they have. You have a comment?
Well, I asked a question. We don't know how much yet, right?
No, because the last amount that Sandy had heard was a little bit different than what we heard originally, so I think it's still kind of fluctuating. There's a lot of stuff that's up in the air with it, so we're just trying to get
What
more
about
clarification.
limitations on spending? What is it? Are we only allowed to spend it on certain things?
Yes, so I've got a little infographic up there that kind of covers what it can be spent for. So just to sum it up, the main bullet points for COVID response and adaptation, premium pay, revenue loss, are infrastructure investments. And the infrastructure investments were limited to cybersecurity, water, and sewer infrastructure. So we're going to have to really kind of dive into this a little bit further and see. And you kind of have to reach out and ask some specific questions about that, and we may or may not get an answer. So it's kind of a unique program or process right now, would be the best way I can say that, in terms of getting clarification on what we can and can't do with it. But once we know that exact amount, I think we'll have to have a separate budget that accounts for that, if I'm correct on that. And we'll have to account for everything that's spent out of that. And it might be, I know some municipalities are doing a multi-year budget, kind of like a project budget, like for the trail or something like that. They're using that method to account for those funds. So a whole lot of stipulations and kind of strings attached with this, but a good opportunity to get some funds if we can find a suitable use for them. We've kind of been brainstorming a couple of different things that we might be able to do with it. The wastewater infrastructure side might be something of interest, and there might be some public safety side things that we might be able to use it for as well. I'd like to see if we could do some technological updates to our network. Maybe we could do some stuff with improvements here in the boardroom so we don't have to pass the microphone around. So things like that we're going to definitely explore each of those and then come back to the board with some more solid recommendations on what it is we'd like to see it expended for. So.
You mentioned that there's some places are using multi-year expenditure. Is there a time limit when we have to use it by?
I believe it was December 2024.
We get it in two separate, they call it tranches. Like we'll get the first payment in this year, like within probably the next 30 days. And we have, I believe it's 48 months to spend that. And then next year we get the other half, and we have the same amount of time to spend that. So yes, there's time limits, and that's roughly 2 years from the time you get the payment to spend that money.
You said 48 months.
And it cannot be.
For each.
Exactly 48 months, but it's roughly that.
So I mean, it's 4 years.
That's from the time you get the payment. Like the first payment you get, you have to use within roughly 2 years.
Okay.
And then next year we get it, you have to use that within 2 years. So they're breaking it up. And they're being very cautious about what they'll tell you. Like when I go into these meetings, I ask specific questions. They will not give you specific answers. And I will specifically email U.S. Treasury and NC Pro, and they give you and they will not even ask them, can we make a spreadsheet of what we want, what our commissioners would like, send it to you for approval to make sure we're covered. They will not do that. So they're being very, it's going to be a difficult situation. We have to be very smart. Zach thinks very good outside the box, which is very good because, cybersecurity is huge. They will, anything COVID related, and he's really good at thinking that about with, technology, and they're big on security, like with the police and the things we need, from police departments. And Zach's got some great ideas. So it's just a matter of what we'll get, when we'll get it, and what we can do with it, and the amount of time we're allowed to do it.
And I share the frustration.
They're not giving us a lot of answers, and then that's the frustrating. And I've been on probably 7 of these.
Yeah. At least I think 7 webinars that Sandy's been on. So it's definitely a cumbersome process. I wish this was coming out with a little less strings attached to it, because I think it could have done a lot more good. But we'll take what we can get and try to maximize the benefit of what we can get. So I'll definitely be running it by the attorney as well before we do anything.
That is very, very knowledgeable, and I have to talk to Zach and give him Zach's information. He himself told me on one of the after comments that they're not even giving them the information. So the federal government, the US Treasury is really being very,
You haven't figured it out.
I've been on 3 of those myself, and one of them was a let's all pat each other on the back for giving away free money thing. But you ask questions, because my thing was wastewater is, are they going to include stormwater in that? Which I think to me is a great way to use this money. But nobody wants to answer my question. So it is a very frustrating process right now, but I think if we go ahead and at least get it started, well, yeah, we'll take the money if you'll let us have it, and then hopefully we can figure it out.
there is not, that will be the document, they will, I believe they email it to him. I've already put out the paperwork to have him send us that document. I believe they email it or he'll send it in the mail, and at that point, he will either sign it, y'all accepted it, or denied it, and that's what you're doing right now, with saying, yes, I want the money, you're doing the resolution, because yes, we, as the commissioner, are accepting this money, or we're not. And
So-
the amount is somewhere about 180,000, I believe. We'll get half of that for first payment, we'll get half. But that will. So that's what your resolution is doing right now, is getting Zach to be okay when he gets that email, to sign off and say, yes, you received the money, and then he will come back to you and say, what we've gotten, this is.
Okay.
What do you want us to do?
Brett, does the Board of Commissioners have the ultimate authority on how this money is spent?
Yeah, absolutely.
Advice, consent, whatever you want to call it?
Absolutely. So what will happen is tonight you would be saying, yes, we'll take the money. That has to come back to the board. And how that money is spent. If you don't agree on that, the money just sits there and ultimately has to get back to the government. But if you can agree on how the money is spent, then he has to do it within those parameters.
Okay, so Zach, you're asking us to approve to accept without knowing how we can spend the stuff. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sequence of steps, and I mean, this is the steps that we can at least accept those funds and be in line to accept those funds, not forget that opportunity. And then as Brett just mentioned, I mean, the board will have to, once we know some more specifics on what we can exactly do with it, we'll come back, talk about what we could do with it, and then I think it'd sort of be like passing a separate budget for that purpose. And that way it's all accounted for in a separate fund entirely. We don't want to commingle these funds into our general fund or anything like that.
Which that is the rule, that's what you got to adhere to.
Yes,
From
yeah,
what I've read.
auditing requirements and everything else, they're going to be completely separate, and how they're spent and accounted for will be separate.
Is the state or the feds the one that's going to dictate how we spend that money?
It's coming down to the federal.
State? Federal, okay. Okay. I was going to ask you if you could tell me one thing this money can be spent on that benefit every Cape Carteret citizen, but evidently you can't do that tonight.
Well, we kicked around some ideas, like I just mentioned. I mean, even technology upgrades are here so that people can hear everybody and make this process more efficient, I think would be helpful. So some technology upgrades on that, just the microphones, the border, and everything else. I know we have some folks that we're having trouble here tonight, so and just improving on that side would be a benefit. But some of the wastewater, and if we could use stormwater, would be a huge benefit as well. So it's just, but we don't know the answer.
I totally agree with Mayor Baker to get this money and use it for something such as infrastructure. But if we accept this and it's not, we can't spend it. You can't spend all that money on upgrading the boardroom. It's impossible. Of course, some governments could, but can you opt out?
Why would you?
I mean, just because it's free don't make it right. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
It's not right, but it's, the money is there. You're either going to spend it or it's going to be split up.
Somebody else.
Yeah, it's just terrible that they give you the money, but they don't tell you how you can
They
spend it.
don't know that. They have to figure it out. The federal government.
Typical, yeah, okay. That's all I have. Don't know any more about the American Rescue Plan than I did when I walked in.
I sat through 3 of the most elongated, boring minutes. It's just, oh, wasting my time.
If we don't approve that, then we're not going to all we're doing now is approving him to accept it, and then we can talk about what we find out. If, in worst case, if we can't spend it, it goes back. But we're not going to have that option unless he goes forward.
I'd like to make a motion, we move forward with this.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, any more discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the resolution? Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, I never heard more people that love to hear the sound of their own voice more in these meetings regarding the money. It's just, oh, let's just move on. I could go all night. All right, next up is the selection of yard debris pickup dates.
This is just wanting to get the board's input. We did go from 2 pickups to 4 pickups, so that's some good news. I know that was mentioned earlier. So just want to get some direction so that Ryan can plan ahead for the Public Works Department, because we're doing this all in-house now. So want to make sure we can go ahead and get that on the calendar, get that figured out when that's going to be, and then get those dates out to the residents of the town so that they know, when that's coming up. So just seeking some input on if we can nail down some dates for each of those pickups, and that'd be for probably 2 this fall, and then 2, or I guess 2 more in 2021, and then 2 in 2022 is the dates we'd be identifying. So I don't know if it'd be August or September, and then I don't know if it'd be October, November, December, sometime in that time frame. Just everybody's got different preferences on when it would be, so just kind of wanted to get everybody's take on when it should be, and maybe we go ahead and set some dates. We can pull up a calendar on there if we need to as well. And
Yeah, if you don't mind, can we put the calendar up? When was the last pickup today?
That was the April, May, end of April.
So we can make it every quarter.
The spring pickup, just 2 recommendations. After the first week in May, because the live oaks have a spring drop. That's what we did before when we had 4. If you do it any sooner than that, you miss that drop. And then for the fall one, the end of the first week in December, most of the leaves are down. Some of those oaks are hanging on real well. If you could establish those 2 dates and then put something in the middle between those, for the other.
So you're saying you're recommending either middle of May?
I'm saying after the first week of May, maybe somewhere between like the 7th and the 14th. I've changed that. I can't tell you the date on the calendar, but that's about the time that the spring drop on the live oak system.
And then September?
In December, or the first week in December, most of the oaks and the hickories and all those things.
Okay.
Years ago, when we had 4, we did it one time in November, really missed the major league. We moved to December.
Then we could have the 4th one maybe in March.
Mayor, I disagree with Mike. He's got some good points, but out of simplicity, I would just say do it every quarter. You still catch those late droppers in a lot of those in January. Just out of simplicity, it's a quarter, make it easier on public works. Stretch it out. I thought you said November.
No, December.
So May, correct me if I'm wrong, but you suggested May, September, December.
Yeah, I only suggested May, December, and fit the other 2 right in the middle between.
Okay, so that would make it September and then March.
Yeah.
So May, September, December, and March, if you did a quarterly that way.
Yes.
How about Public Works? To you, is that anything that would?
Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of times, now in the middle of summer, a lot of people don't want to be out there doing a little bit of clearing or
trimming overground, it's hot, there's animals, snakes, stuff like that. So I'm all about doing like cold out too, which is December, but maybe sometime in early spring cleanups too, if we get to, so.
Okay.
End of February and March.
Okay.
Like you said, we're gonna start out with 4 right now, like, see if we can, how this goes, and start to pick this up, see what we can do with it.
So if we get a storm, are we going to use one of these?
That would be a good thing for the board to weigh in on. So we have that direction now. And one thing I'd say, you know, I think it's the statistical height of hurricane season. A lot of times for us is that first week, second week of September. So if we wanted to shoot for later in September, it might be better. I'm just envisioning a scenario where people put debris out for the pickup, and then we get a storm come along and it blows that debris all over the place. And we've seen that kind of happen before. So that might just be another consideration in September. It might be a little bit better to do it later in September because I think it's that first or second week is the statistical height of the Atlantic hurricane season.
But that's not when we'll get it.
Yeah, it'll be later in September probably.
So we could say the last week of each of those months, the last week of May, the last week of September, the last week of December, the last week of March. Oh, forgive me, that's Christmas. Y'all might have better plans. So suggestions. Early December. Okay, so let's say the first week of December. Okay, end of September, end of March, be okay? All right, so let's do that.
Sectionize it too. Be a little learning curve at first.
Right.
How long it take as far as running those back and forth. We do one days for Old Kid Car Rev, one for the Bay Shore Street area, one for Star Hill. Instead of say it takes us, I don't know yet.
Right.
Go out there and do it. It takes us a week. It shouldn't. But to just say, we can do that, that's stuff sitting out there just for sitting out there rotting by the road for quite a amount of time. It doesn't need to be there. Just something to think about too.
Okay.
We wanted to break it up.
Well, you want to try September and see how it goes. And
We'll say so September 27th through October 1st, basically that week.
Yeah.
Give ourselves a good week to see if we can knock it out, hopefully.
Okay. And then tentative.
We'll be starting in this area first.
Okay.
Monday.
Okay. And then we'll say tentatively the first week in December. Then we'll do again with March the same way, and then May, the end of May.
Are we thinking the first full week in December, or do you want to do it starting on that Monday, November 29th?
Let's do that.
Yeah.
That way a lot of people will be Thanksgiving, looking for something to do to get away from the family. And like I say, we'll see how September goes, and if we need to change some dates, we can do that.
See what they,
We'll have a. Sure you
it's probably that 25th and the 26th. Is that correct? Would town hall be closed the 25th and the 26th of November?
It's on the website. Those are Thursday and Friday, the 25th and 26th.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds right. So.
Well, why don't we investigate that, but we'll just agree that the September one, we'll go ahead and see how that goes. And if we need to stagger it, we'll come back next month and make any adjustments we need to do. How's that sound, gentlemen? Okay. All right. You need a vote, or is consensus okay with you?
I think consensus is fine. So we'll shoot for that November 29th through December 3rd, unless we find that there's like a holiday or something that conflicts with that.
Okay. And then just let us know how things go in September. If we need to rethink things or schedule differently, then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. All righty, so next up is budget amendment 2021.2022.1 for various ongoing projects.
All right, so the town of Cape Carteret currently has several projects that are scheduled or ongoing, including the Pennifer Creek launch site, the Ferry Landing Park, the Manatee Boat Ramp Channel dredging project, and the Bogue Sound Drive sediment removal project. Several projects were incomplete as of June 30th, 2021, which was the end of fiscal year 2020-2021. All expenses incurred and completed work that occurred in FY 2021 has been paid. Remaining funds were rolled back into the undesignated fund balance at the conclusion of FY 2021 and will therefore need to be reallocated in the current fiscal year FY 21-22 budget. And I've got a summary of the requested budget amendment items. So we have the Pennifer Creek launch site. That includes the construction of the turn lane and parking lot at $45,000. We found we had to put a right-of-way, a pipe in the right-of-way per NCDOT. That's $4,500. And then we have some remaining engineering, design, and surveying costs for that project at $3,200. The Ferry Landing Park project remaining work. So we've got signage for the park. That'd be that $2,100. And then ABC rock for the parking area down there at $5,500. Dredging projects, Manatee Boat Ramp Channel at $33,550. And then the Bogue Sound Drive sediment removal at $5,100. That would be a total increase in expenditures of $98,950. And so we would be increasing the budget revenues as follows: from the state shallow draft navigation channel, dredging and aquatic weed fund, $22,100. The Carteret County grant funds for their portion of the Manatee Boat Ramp Channel dredging project, $5,525. CAMA grant funds for the Pennifer Creek launch site at $39,525. And the undesignated fund balance transfer would be $31,800. So the total increase in revenues would be $98,950. And the Board of Commissioners are asked to consider approving budget amendment 2021.2022.1. And I'll be happy to answer any questions about the budget amendment. But the good news is a lot of this is covered by grant funding, as you can see. So we just have $31,800 is all that'd be actually rolling out of our undesignated fund balance for this. So.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, do I have a second? All right, discussion?
Yeah, I think.
Hold on a minute, Mike. That's the speaker. I'm working on the system, by the way. It's very antiquated.
Yes, I think that the total, you're talking about $100,000, but only $31,800 is all for all those projects, which is the Pennifer Creek launch site, the ferry landing, and the dredging projects of our boat canal down here. I think the small price to pay to complete those things. That's all.
Zach, are we ever gonna finish the kayak launch? It's been 3 years. Okay. That's 3 years now.
Any other comments? Other than the venting of frustration with other legal entities and municipalities and whatnot. All right, then we'll put it to a vote. All in favor? All right, thank you, gentlemen. All right. The resolution to support the approval of House Bill 513 that Ms. Holtz actually spoke against. I understand where she's coming from, but when I look at the way our laws are right now regarding fish nets. We are woefully behind a lot of the other states, especially in the protection of our fisheries. There was one thing this bill did not cover, which I felt it should have, and maybe I didn't read it in depth enough, was the size of the gill nets. That's the only issue I have with using the gill nets in the way that they're being done now, whether it's commercially or whether it's done recreationally, is you're catching everything. You're killing everything. You're pulling it all out. And so I think that does need to be looked at a little more stringently than what it is. I don't want to take anything away from any commercial fishermen as far as their ability to do what they're doing. And I think some of the stuff that like she did allude to, is being more politically motivated. But I do feel that our state has been lagging behind in some of this regulation. And so that's why we put together this resolution, and I'll read it to you now, which is, whereas the town of Cape Carteret is an environmentally conscious municipality located along the coastal waters of North Carolina, and whereas the town of Cape Carteret recognizes the value of a healthy fishery and wishes to protect its waterways and fisheries for its citizens and its future generations to come. And whereas gill nets and the lack of proper regulation have proven to be detrimental to the health and well-being of the fisheries along coastal waterways in North Carolina, and whereas the town of Cape Carteret supports the proposed statewide referendum to allow the qualified voters in North Carolina to vote on the regulations of marine net fishing. Now therefore be resolved, the town of Cape Carteret expresses its support for the approval of the House Bill 513 that has been introduced in North Carolina General Assembly to allow the voters of North Carolina to vote via referendum on the question of whether to enact limitations on marine net fishing in coastal fishing waters to protect saltwater, finfish, shellfish, and other marine animals from unnecessary killing, overfishing, and waste. And with that, I'll ask for a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And any comments or, hang on a second. If you don't mind passing that down there, Mr. Martin.
I don't want to take any much more time, but I've got a few things that I feel inclined to say in regard to this bill. I fished these waters for 60 years. I'm 65, almost 66 years old. During that time, I've seen the stock of fish slowly but surely being depleted. This bill does not recommend banning of netting as a whole the way I read it. It's just gill nets, which a gill net is an indiscriminate killer of all marine life. Whatever gets in contact, it's dead. The agencies in our state that were tasked with protecting all marine life have failed miserably. It's past time for to allow the citizens of our state who actually own the resource to decide its fate. I wholeheartedly support HB 513.
Just a couple of comments. Believe it or not, my uncle was a commercial fisherman, and I used to go back in the 50s, and he got out of it for the very reason that we're talking about it today. It was a decline of the species, but what amazed me as a small boy going with him is he wasn't gill net fishing. He was using trawler nets for fish. But the devastation from those nets and the flocks of seagulls after picking up the small dead fish that you throw out through the mesh in the net, there's a better way. Second, we got the most liberal gill net fishing laws from Virginia to Texas on the coast. 7, 8, 10 years ago, we banned gill net fishing in Deer Creek. Basically, the way that worked was they would come in and put 1,000 feet of net up the middle of the creek and get onto the docks on both sides and drive the fish from both sides in there. And we got that banned because we were fortunate enough at some point in time, somebody smarter than me anyway, had gotten us jurisdiction of the waters in front of Cape Carteret out to the ICW. So I am wholeheartedly supportive of this resolution.
Well, I'm just going to speak a little bit on this. Somebody ain't going to like it, somebody might like it. But born and raised here on the water, Cape Claret. Just get my uncle in the water. Nets, clean fish, and I agree. What you say, it does kill fish, but not all. But some, on the other side of this, you have those that are making their livelihood off of fishing. That's how they were brought up. Should there be some more regulations with this? Possibly so. I'm not in the marine fishery business. I do not know how that works. I just know that's what they do. That's their job. Am I against the way this is done in a way? In some way, yes. Another way, I'm not. Am I totally for a resolution for this? I have to say I'm not. Some people have to live off this water. They've done it for years and years and years. So that's basically where I stand with this. Move it.
Yeah, I'm not a fisherman. But I have, in the 15 years or so that I've been here, I've heard from both sport fishermen and commercial fishermen, seem to be on opposite sides of the fishing issue. And they both always, to me, it seemed, presented rational arguments. So to go one way or the other, I don't know which way to go, but it seems to me that all we're doing here is saying this is going to be a referendum. We're not deciding, this law does not decide to eliminate gill net fishing. It proposes to let the people decide, put it on a referendum. I haven't been crazy about referendums we've had in town before, but this one I can go with. And that's why I'd support this resolution.
And like I say, I just think we can do better. I mean, to just say we've always done it this way and we're not going to change, that's ridiculous. I think, if nothing else, this gets a conversation started, whether this dies, in the assembly or not. I think we need to have these discussions. Like I say, a lot of other states, we're so far behind. Just the gill net sizing would be a great thing. 2-inch hole. You allow those little guys to go on through and they can live. And you're catching what you're going to be wanting anyway. I watched a boat, I think it was Friday, going out, and that's the first thing I noticed was what net he was using. Almost exact same thing as a cast net, as far as the size. So he's catching everything, and he's just closing down one end of the inlet, going in under the bridge and coming out the other side. So all that fish that was there is now dead, whatever he didn't use. So here again, we're just saying that we'd like to see some change come, let the people decide, and hopefully they'll come up with something better with the discussion.
I'm going to echo exactly what Jim said. I've heard both sides of it. I'm not a fisherman either. If this bill were strictly to eliminate gill net fishing, I would probably be against it. I just don't know, but that's not what it is. It's to put it out in a referendum, let the voters, I support that. Let the people of the state decide what they want to do.
All right, well, we have the motion and the second. I'll just call for a vote unless there's any other comments. If not, all in favor? All opposed? All right, that being passed 4-1. And last but not least is Commissioner reports. I'll start on the far end with Commissioner Martin. I hope your mother's doing well, sir. I know she's not doing well. And hang on just a second. Let's.
Zach, I would like to have placed on next month's agenda a discussion on installing the buoy out where Ms. Holtz was talking about. I would make the motion tonight, but I don't know if my fellow commissioners are prepared to do that. So just put that on the agenda if you don't mind for next month so we can discuss it. Also, would you please look into Ms. Morris' request about a shredding event? I know the last one we had was when Charlie Evans was commissioner. I think he orchestrated that. Don might remember that. Maybe some interest in that. I'm not sure. Maybe you could do that. Also, Zach, and when we did this budget amendment, you and I had talked about a security light at the new Lejeune Park. We were planning on showing some town movies down there, but there's no electricity on the property. Did you Have you done anything about that, Lat?
No, man.
Okay, so, okay, so,
Still trying to figure out how everything's configured.
okay. Was very happy to finally see the building painted. It's been an eyesore for too long. Good job, whoever did it. I guess that's all I've got. Thank you. Oh, yeah, nothing but good reports from your department, Ryan. A complete turnaround. Thanks.
I'm just going to reiterate what the mayor said about the Watermelon Festival. I came down about 2 o'clock and thought I'd see a couple dozen people milling around. And I came down here, I stayed till about 5:30, and it was just, I can't believe how many people came to this thing. So to the staff, Barbara and Heather and Zach for putting this on, thank you.
Yeah, I echo what Bruce King just said. And what a great day it was at the Watermelon Festival. Great turnout. Look forward to next time. Having it again, staff, Ryan, Chief, to Heather and Barbara and Sandy, thank you, and Zach. Y'all work very hard, very diligently. Thank you for doing that for the people. And having something for them to look forward to go do something. Yeah.
Also, kudos to Zach and all the town staff for Saturday. Like everybody said, I could not believe how many people were here. And it was like as people were leaving, more were coming. It was just nonstop. And as a matter of fact, I was down in Cedar Point at their market earlier in the day. And a couple of vendors down there were talking to people saying, make sure you're Cape Carteret at 3 o'clock. I guess a lot of those vendors were moving down here, but I mean, they were promoting it down there too. And I think that's the most people I've seen at a festival here, probably since we had the 50th anniversary over here back in 2009, whenever it was. So I'm certainly looking forward to more of those to come.
Yeah, it's really great not being a mullet festival.
I concur with that statement. And I'm just going to throw more kudos. I mean, I thought it was awesome. It was really great. The only thing I would add is I'm going to approach Lowe's and see if maybe they would be interested in donating materials to maybe do a cover for the stage. It was rather hot at 3 o'clock. So if we can get them to donate some lumber and all that, I don't mind donating some skill or find some other people. I know John Ritchie donated his people to build what we have out there now, which is really nice. We can get a lot done with people that want to help their community. So there again, anybody else, would like to help out, especially like with this event. I'd like to see some volunteers maybe next year to help our staff out, if nothing else with directing parking, things like that, help, anything we could do to sort of help relieve our staff, because we are a very small staff, and to put an event on like that, and I hope it does grow, but as something grows, you need more help with it. So maybe we can get more volunteers to show up and help our little town out. And I just can't say enough about our staff. They do an awesome job. And I've seen a lot of people that have signed up to run for office, and I think that's great. I encourage everybody to run. I will just make this statement right now as the mayor. I support everybody. I'm endorsing no one. I just feel as a small town, I have to work with everybody, and I don't want to show any favoritism in this election. I wish everybody well, but I do want to remind you that with our staff, please treat them with respect. I don't want to hear anybody vibratos or anything like that about the staff, about the election. They're not up for election. These seats can change every 2 years. We want these guys to stay here all the time. We want to retain this staff. Please treat them with the respect they deserve. That's all I got to say about that. And I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Thank you. And thank you all for coming out tonight. We do appreciate it. Love seeing people.